Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for April 7th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here today on my own to talk you through everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. It was day 40 in the house, and it's one last day, one final day before the eviction tonight. So we will talk through all of the last bits of campaigning and preparation for this upcoming HOH as we run through the day. You can also ask some questions here at the end if you want, if you're watching live. And so let's just get straight into it. Of course, Marty is the HOH. He nominated Josh and Betty for eviction. Kevin won the veto, used it on Josh. Herman went up as the replacement. He initially was able to flip the votes to stay with 7 votes. He needed 4. He got Summer, Gino, Jace, and Moose. But then things flipped back. And we are currently now in a place where it is looking pretty dire for Herman. He is going to need to do something drastic to change his fate, and we will see if that happens today on day 40. It's not looking good. We're going to start the day with Kevin and Betty. Betty tells Kevin, I took your advice. I worked the angles that you told me to, and I think it worked. I think I'm staying with Gino and Jace. I told them what you said to tell them. I told them that I'm not coming for them. All of these things, and I think they're on board. I think they're going to keep me. I don't know exactly what Kevin told her to say, but she's very pleased about it. He asks her, like, well, are you really not coming for the showmans though? And she goes, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, probably not. I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure. She's like, will you be coming for the showmans? He says, we'll see. Dangerous territory here, as we will quickly get to. He says that Herman asked if it was worth even pitching to Kevin at all. And Kevin told Herman, no, I'm a vote for Betty, pretty much. She says that, well, his whole pitch is that he's targeting you, Kevin. So, I mean, that's kind of makes sense. Kevin says, everybody loves to pitch that they're coming for me. Easy target. Betty thinks it's not smart. Why would you say that you're going after somebody like Kevin? Like, why would you do that? Why not say that you're going after bigger fish? It doesn't make any sense. They talk about how Herman is also trying to say that Kevin and Marty have a final 2. She's like, why is he saying that? He says, well, I'm close with Marty. Helena's close with Marty. And so people are trying to like group us up in some way. But even though I'm close to Marty, I definitely don't want to take Marty to the end. I mean, come on. She's like, you don't have a final 2 with him? He says, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? If I had a final 2 with Marty, everyone would know already because he would have told everyone by now, which is genuinely a really good point from Kevin. Interesting conversation to start the day here between the two of them. The relationship between Kevin and Betty has gotten interesting. So where Betty stands with this is that Kevin gave her advice on how to stay. She took the advice. She ran with it. She's now pitched a Final 4 with Jace and Gino. Kevin knows about the pitch for the Final 4. We don't know exactly how he knows. It may have been that in his conversations with Betty, she told him about it, or it might have been that Josh told him about it. I'm kind of leaning on the side of Betty because he helped her with the pitch so much. But the thing is that he doesn't realize how far along this Final 4 has gotten to. He does not realize that it's a genuinely pitched Final 4 with Jason Gino, and Betty is actually pretty excited about it. And he is also, I think, probably overestimating his influence on Betty here. I think Betty does a good job here of really making Kevin feel like I took your advice. And I think he did give her advice, and I think she did take the advice. We're actually going to see her use some of the words that he told her to say in future conversations. But she's able to milk that situation for as much as it's worth, right? Like by telling Kevin, like, I took your advice, it worked, thank you so much. Kevin is going to say to Helena later, like, I feel like I've really got Betty. I feel like she's like super on board with me. I feel like using the veto on Josh was even better for winning over Betty than using the veto on her would have been. So a little bit, I think, of a miscalculation here by Kevin. Shouldn't be too major yet, but we will see where this develops. Betty is also going to talk with Jace briefly, saying, hey, I would love to like meet up and lock in this Final Four with Josh, which they are going to try to do. Gino is going to talk with Jace about how Jace says, like, Kevin and Helena keep trying to push for us to be in an alliance. It's kind of weird, but we like the alliance with Betty and Josh more. We're into Betty and Josh. Let's be real. Kevin and Helena, they're kind of nerds. They're kind of the weirdos. Betty and Josh, much cooler. We'd much rather play with Betty and Josh. Is kind of the vibe here. They like the alliance with Betty and Josh more. They're going to go in that direction. However, that does not mean that they're going to be targeting Kevin or Helena anytime soon, as we will quickly get to. In the meantime, Herman, unfortunately, is going to take a back seat in this update because he is going to be campaigning some throughout the day. He's going to be having some conversations, but for the most part, he is really on the back foot, and none of it is going to be effective as of, what time is it in the East Coast? 11:10 Eastern. But he's going to talk to the cameras. This is part of why his campaigning is very ineffective from this point forward. He's not really focusing in the right direction. He says it's Josh or bust. I'm not going to try with Summer anymore. I've got to get Josh. We know that Josh has already been, long before Herman even went on the block, flipped against Herman, and is definitely not going to be saving Herman. And then in addition to that, two of his other votes, Jace and Gino, are now very excited about this new Final Four with Josh and Betty. So he's got a big hurdle to jump there as well. His only hope, I've been saying this for a few days now, in my opinion, is that he needs to turn Gino and Jace against Josh and Betty, saying that Josh and Betty are playing the whole house and that they secretly have an alliance with Marty, Kevin and Helena, which they don't. And he also doesn't know enough about the relationships to even imply that perhaps something is there, because he could maybe say that, Kevin and Helena might have something with them. But even with all of that, it's a tough sell at this point, especially with how far along the Final Four with Josh, Betty, Jace, and Gino has progressed. So it's not looking good for Herman. Speaking of that Final Four, Betty, I almost said base, Base and Gino, Betty, Jace, and Gino are going to be attempting to lock in this Final Four. They talk about how they're out by the hot tub. They've told Josh to come out, but Josh isn't coming out. So it's just the three of them. They're waiting for Josh, and they're waiting to like get Josh out there so they can be like, all right, let's do this. They talk about how nobody will suspect them working together because everybody thinks that Betty hates the showmance, and how cool that is that nobody will suspect this. Except Kevin already knows that the pitch has been made, but he is underestimating it. Jace and Gino want Marty, Summer, and Moose gone next, right? So there will be 9 people remaining in the house once Herman leaves. Betty, Josh, Jason, Gino, a Final Four. They are looking at essentially taking out and so, okay, sorry, let me reset this. Jason, Gino are being pitched to Final Four with Josh and Betty. They want this Final Four. They're trying to lock that in. They're also being pitched to Final Four by Kevin and Helena, who are a bit less genuine about it, which they are not as excited about. And they are not locking that in. However, their targets are the three people that are not pitching a Final Four with them: Marty, Moose, and Summer. So obviously, in the showmance's eyes, their ideal final six is Josh and Betty, Kevin and Helena. That's what they're looking to do. And they discuss not those exact specifics with Betty, but they discuss their targets with Betty, saying that, Marty and Moose are kind of the people that they're looking to really take out first. And Betty is like, I'm down. I'm willing to take anybody out of this game. I don't care. I really want to work. I really want this thing to work. And so if we're going to take out Marty and Moose, I'm in. Totally in. Summer can go. I don't even care. So that's kind of the plan for this four, is that they will be targeting Moose, Marty, and Summer. Probably Moose and Marty first. And that's kind of the intention. Now, that's for Jason Gino. Obviously, Betty may go through with that. Josh might have some influence to change it in a different direction if so desired. Josh may also do something different. Obviously, it's, it may be in Josh's interest to take out Marty at this point, but Kevin, we know, has a large amount of influence over Josh, and Josh has a large amount of influence over Betty. So what they actually do with power is to be determined. But when it comes to Jace and Gino, I think it's very important to note, again, their targets right now: Moose, Marty, Summer. They also said specifically they did not want to be the ones to take Marty out themselves. They would love for somebody else to take Marty out for them. So that's another thing to consider here. So that's what they're looking at. They're still waiting for Josh to come out and solidify this thing. Betty keeps going to check on Josh, but he's busy talking to Moose. He's not coming out. He never comes out. And so they end up kind of just, dissipating. But the thing is still locked in. It's not like this caused anything to actually happen here. The conversation Josh is having with Moose, while he, busy having with Moose instead of going out and solidifying this alliance, is mostly just Moose talking about how he is concerned that Summer might come for him because they're not on the same page about this vote. Moose is feeling very isolated. He's been a very staunch supporter of Herman through this whole process, and Summer has been very back and forth. He feels like, again, they're not on the same page. He feels like Betty's mad at him. Betty refuses to pitch to him at all and campaign to him at all, even though he's been asking her to. And he's just kind of feeling like, I don't even know where I go from here. Josh is probably the one person Moose still feels pretty good about overall. And so he's just having that conversation with him. Kevin and Helena are going to talk for a bit. Kevin suggests that they should probably cool off on the Gino and Jace offer for a little while, and wait to see if Gino and Jace offer anything to them, because they've been pushing and Jace and Gino have been seemingly reluctant. They obviously need to make sure that it's locked in, but they need to sort of like gauge where they're at with all of it. He says it's important that they get this Final Five / Final Four solidified, because it's important that they are the ones to break it and not the showmance, which, you're close there. Helena tells Kevin about her conversation with Jace, how Jace thought that Marty had lots of Final Twos, including a Final Two with Kevin. So Kevin is going to be going around throughout most of the day talking about, like, oh, apparently I have a Final Two with Marty. Herman's really trying to push that narrative, huh? And he's also going to have a conversation with Marty later in the day about this. So stay tuned for that. Helena says that Kevin also says that it's important that they win HOH. He's been trying to push this as much as possible for the people that he wants to win HOH. He said the same thing to Betty. He's going to say this again to Helena. It's very important that we win HOH. Helena says her order is the people that she would like out: Moose, Summer, Gino are the people that she would like out. Kevin says Gino is a backdoor for sure. And then once we take Gino out, we can make a final three with Jace. He says there's no way we should be keeping Gino in the game too long. He is way too good at competitions. He is like, Gino is the guy that we need to take out. He says that he copied Gino's, like, people think he's bad at puzzles. He copied Gino's puzzle in the veto. I personally took this to mean that he copied the block puzzle, not the word portion of it. But I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure he's talking about the block puzzle. Um, he also tells Helena that Betty's pitch to Jason Gino is that they should make a Final Four with Josh. But he thinks it's BS. He thinks it's fake. It's nonsense that Betty won't actually stick to it. He doesn't quite realize yet that Betty is like very much on board at this time. So aware of this, but not aware of how solid it is yet. We will see, because we haven't really seen a conversation with Josh and Kevin about it yet. I would be surprised if Josh did not tell Kevin the full extent of it at some point. But who knows? Jason and Josh are going to talk after Josh was not going to, it did not go out to the hot tub. They just kind of lock in the Final Four again. They both confirm that they're down for it. Josh and Herman are going to talk for a bit. Herman is trying to pitch to Josh, trying to get Josh to be on board with keeping him. And this conversation is less of a campaign pitch and more of a slowly letting Herman down conversation. It's kind of sad. It's kind of like I feel like Herman, he's still fighting. He's still trying. He's doing his best, but it's just not enough here. Josh explaining why he feels like he might be leaning toward not voting for Herman to stay. He feels like he was a backup option. He doesn't want to feel like he was the last resort for Herman after everything else crumbled and failed. And he never felt included in any of the prior groups with all the bros and everything that was going on there. Herman tries to explain, like, you were never my backup option. You've been my final two for a while. Like, I always included you in these groups. I've always wanted to work with you. I never wanted to do the bro thing. I was brought into the bro thing last minute, and then it very quickly crumbled. It's like so on and so forth. He has some decent explanations. I think Josh gets to a point where he doesn't know how to continue to counter with these things. Josh just keeps telling him, I'm just going to talk to one more person and then I'll get back to you. Herman is definitely getting the message that, like, this is not looking great. This is not looking great. So Herman is also going to talk with Helena. This is more of a contentious conversation as they argue a bit over what happened with the votes for Steph and with T, primarily about like where their line of communication started to falter. Helena lets him know that, like, it wasn't my fault. I was told not to tell you anything with the Steph vote because people didn't trust you because they thought you were too close to Kyle. And this is kind of news to Herman. Remember, this is where this whole thing spawned from. It was the week that Steph was on the block, when everyone was on the same page, but a lot of people didn't trust Herman because he was too close to the bros. Kevin tried to make a final two with Herman that he kind of rejected. And so Kevin and Helena and many other people thought this guy's just full on down with the bros. He said to Kevin, I am down with the bros, because he thought that Kevin was down with the bros. And so that's where the relationship between Helena and Herman starts to falter. She's also upset about the fact that he's, called her a floater and things like that. So they're going to argue for a bit. It's not really going to matter or go anywhere, but it happens. We're also going to see that Betty is going to talk some more with Josh. Moose wants her to campaign to him, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to go campaign to Moose. Come on. Go beg to Moose. She knows he's not voting for her. Josh is like, you should. Moose is going to talk to Summer about being frustrated that Betty won't campaign to him. He's like, what did I do? Like, yeah, sure, I'm voting for Herman, but like, at least come and talk to me. Aren't we supposed to be working together? He really feels like he needs to win some competitions. He needs to start winning. Get some Dimitri energy going on. He feels, they talk about what they think like Kevin might do if he won. They think that Kevin would put up the showmance, hopefully. But Moose is trying. He's trying. Jace, Kevin, and Helena are going to talk for a bit because there is some drama. There's some drama that we need to talk about. Just a little bit. Obviously, as you all know, the Summer and Jace relationship has been rocky from very early on. It's always been rocky. Honey Bunch was a thing, but it was never really a thing. And things are rocky for Summer and Jace. Summer likes to flirt. She flirts with Gino sometimes. She flirts with Herman sometimes. That happens. Jace, not fond of Summer flirting, especially with Gino. Now, there was apparently some stretching going on. And this wasn't even like necessarily flirty stretching for all I know. I mean, I didn't watch the stretching, but apparently there was some stretching going on. There were some hands being put on bodies to assist in the stretching. And Jace was not having it. She's going to complain to Kevin and Helena. She feels like it's not cool what Summer is doing. She feels like Summer is messing with her intentionally, trying to provoke her. And she is not pleased. Put a pin in this for now. Helena's going to talk to Jace. Helena reiterates to Jace, hey, I'm not working with Marty. I promise you, I'm not working with Marty. We don't have a final two. Marty, I'm really annoyed with Marty because he keeps acting like we're in a group together, but I'm not with him. I'm with you. I want to go to the final two with you, Jace. And Jace is like, great. Love it. Definitely believe you. Betty finally campaigns to Moose, but it's pretty surface level. They both say that they can work together moving forward, but I don't think either of them really fully believes it. Betty's going to give Kevin the rundown on the conversation afterward. Summer and Herman are going to have another one of their sort of like cuddly, I'm not voting for you. Why not? Because I don't trust you, but I'm cuddling with you and we're still being flirty, but you are leaving, but I'm mad at you for not voting for me. Conversations. These don't really matter anymore because the votes are locked anyway, so we don't need to go into detail. But they have another one of those. Getting those cuddles in before Herman leaves. So then they go. They have some dinner, and at dinner, Summer is going to just kind of like do a little dinner cuddle with Gino, kind of like put her arms around Gino at the table, kind of thing. And Jace is like over in the kitchen, and then everyone at the table is kind of like, oh man, and Gino starts joking like, oh, I'm gonna be sleeping on the couch now. And they're like, oh, really? Like, oh. And Jace is like hearing this and hearing them laugh about it and seeing what's happening. And she gets upset again. She's like, not no. And Summer, while they're joking, Summer's like, I'll do whatever I want in this house. And they're like, oh! And Gino's like, you're gonna get me in trouble. And so Jace goes into the pantry, and she's like, oh, I can't believe Summer. And Gino has to go and talk to her, and he's like, I hope you're not mad at me, because you know it's not my fault. He says, I think he says, I'm sorry, but you know it's not my fault, right? And she's like, yeah, I know, it's Summer. It's Summer. And she's very mad at Summer. She's like, it's a weird girl thing. But let me tell you, Gino, that I will, what did she say? I will distance myself. I will remove myself from the situation, Gino. This is the classic case of the bunny rabbit in the mailbox, where the woman is getting blamed despite the fact that the guy could easily just shut this down. So unattach, uninvolve. Yes, there it is. So she will uninvolve herself if necessary. So this is definitely building drama and tension here with Summer and Jace, especially heading into an HOH competition. If Jace or even perhaps Gino were to win, might be cause for concern for Summer, who they talked about Moose, Marty, and Summer as targets. But remember, Jace and Gino said that they didn't want to be the ones to take Marty out themselves. I would not be super surprised if we saw something like Summer and Moose nominations, with Jace kind of feeling like, okay, we'll either backdoor Marty or send Summer home potentially. But who knows? Who knows where that's going to go? So that's all that's happening. Josh and Summer are going to reconvene once again, and of course agree that Herman should go. It's still the case, still locked in. Kevin and Marty are going to talk for a bit. This is when Kevin says that, hey, Herman has really been trying to paint us as a group, you, me, and Helena, as big targets that we're working together. And Marty's like, what do we do? And he says that we need to act less close, aka Marty, stop telling people that we're your number 1 and 2, please. That would be helpful. So we'll see where that goes. Moose and Helena are going to talk for a little bit. They talk about who Moose feels good about. He feels good about Josh. And Helena tries to do some work for Kevin here. She says that she tells him that Kevin campaigned really hard for him when he was up against Tanisha, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Trying to help with Moose a little bit here. Herman is going to give one last pitch or not maybe one last pitch, but one last pitch for the day to Gino and Jace. And they're not really having it. They're not really having it. That they agree afterward, like, that was sad. That was unfortunate. It's not gonna work. This is it seemingly for Herman. He's basically got a tiny bit of time today if he wants to really try and upturn the status quo here. But I don't know that his head is in the right place to do it in terms of what his pitch is. And he's definitely very short on time at this point. So we can, I think, pretty much expect that Herman will be leaving tonight. And we will have an HOH competition where a lot of people are expecting either a quiz or endurance tonight. Endurance, there hasn't been any endurance so far this season, so I wouldn't be super surprised if there was endurance, but I also wouldn't be super surprised if it was a quiz. We've had a lot of skill and physical competitions since the last quiz, which was when Jess won HOH. So a quiz wouldn't be completely out of the realm of possibility here, but I know a lot of people are hoping for Buzzkilled. This really feels like the time for an endurance, but again, who knows? They have not announced anything as far as I'm aware. So I don't know. I don't know. Any questions? Any questions here from the chat before we wrap up the day? It was a nothing too major here today as we head into the eviction, but there's definitely some intrigue heading into this HOH. So we will see where things go. Likelihood of Gino and Jace putting up Marty. I think that even though they don't want to be the ones to do it, they will still consider it. Because you probably will it depends on like where, because at this point in the game, what's interesting is that Josh and Kevin's interests are starting to separate. For Josh, he's got this new Final Four with the Showmans. Now, obviously, Josh can't expect to work with the Showmans long term. That's too risky. But for Josh, like, Josh has Summer, Josh has Moose. He could easily pick up those numbers. He could have Gino and Jace as sort of a side thing. He's obviously got Betty. He's got Kevin and Helena. The person he has the least at this point is Marty. So for Josh, taking out Marty is the call. But that's obviously not what Kevin will necessarily want immediately. Kevin would prefer for one of the Showmans or one of Summer and Moose to go first, because that makes more sense for his game. So we could see a clash of wills here if Josh decides he's going to stand up for sort of like what he wants. So if Josh has influence over the Showmans, or if Josh has influence over Summer and Moose, or if Kevin has influence over Josh, like where could things go at that point? Could be interesting. But so the question is, will Jace and Gino put Marty up on the block? Well, will they have Josh and Betty really pushing for it? I know Betty certainly seems to want it to some degree. That would certainly encourage them to do it. But if they have Kevin and Helena being like, don't do this, and they manage to convince Josh to get in their ear, like, you don't need to do this, then they might not. I think that basically the answer is that it could go either way. I think there is an inclination to perhaps not, but they may also feel pressured into doing so. They are players that tend to succumb to pressure, so it will probably depend on where everyone else stands. Who are the likely targets for next week? Marty is a target. Moose is a target. Summer is a target. Those three, again, from the four that came together there. The Showmans is a little bit of a target as well. But really, for the most part here, you're looking at Marty, Moose, and Summer as the primary targets. If Moose or Summer were to win HOH, they would also likely be targeting Marty. That could end up with a like Kevin or Helena pawn situation potentially, but that really hasn't even been mentioned. You could see like I think Moose has even mentioned like a Summer or Betty pawn situation in an attempt to take a shot at Marty, and with again Josh perhaps in Moose's ear to help influence him away from those two as potential pawns. That could be the case. So either way, the target would likely be Marty. So those are definitely the three most likely targets, but this is the Big Brother Canada 10 house. Don't lock in anything. We'll talk more about that, of course, today on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, running through the stock watch options and what we might see next week. Do the house guests know that jury will start tonight? No, they do not. They definitely do not. How does this week change if they know that jury has already started? I don't think it changes that much. Just a lot of the conversations about jury wouldn't have happened, but really the person who was penalized the most for them not knowing that jury started was Betty. They didn't want Betty in jury. So if they knew that it was already jury anyway, then things might have just been even a little bit more against Herman, if that had been the case. Should we be rooting for a Moose HOH? Perhaps. It depends. Hopefully tonight's episode is good. What should Kevin be doing to help his end game? He, I think, needs Gino out soon. Once he gets Gino out, I think that it's all about maintaining. The other thing is that like Moose is he's tried to work on Moose, and Moose has not been super receptive. One of the few people that hasn't been super receptive to Kevin's advances. So he may need Moose out as well. And then once that happens, he can try to feel out like what's the best setup for him. I think something like honestly bringing somebody like Summer, or even maybe Betty. You're looking at people who like haven't won competitions yet, and are going to be the easiest to beat in a competition. Not that Summer and Betty would be easy to beat necessarily, but they're certainly going to probably be easier to beat than like a Gino or a Marty or a Moose at this point. So I think for Kevin, it's all about competitions. You just get out all of the people that are better than you at competitions, and then hope that you can set yourself up well. And Marty is the last person you need to take out because he's the person that you've got the most influence over. And really, like worst case scenario, if Marty starts winning out toward the end, you just hope that that Marty will take you or something along those lines. But you should be able to get Marty out at some point after Gino and Moose. I will probably go live today at around 3 p.m. Eastern for the stock watch stuff. The market will close at 4 p.m. Eastern for spoilers. Do I find it interesting that Josh is keeping things from Kevin? I mean, Josh doesn't really keep things from Kevin all that much. I mean, he kept the Herman final two from Kevin for a little while, but eventually told him about it. It's I think mostly that Josh is just a player who very naturally doesn't divulge information, but the person he divulges the most amount of information to by far is Kevin. So I think it's less that he's keeping things from Kevin and more that he just keeps things mostly to himself, because he keeps things from other people much more than he keeps things from Kevin. For Helena, what are the moves she can make to win in the final two? She's played a decent game, but not sure how she can prove herself to the others. That's been one of my concerns for Helena in the game so far. I think that she will obviously competitions are the primary thing. If she wins some competitions in the end stretch, I think that would be huge. That would be enough. If she's not able to win competitions, then she needs to make sure that she is in a position to be taken to the end. She's trying to work on this final two with Jace. Now, she got caught in a lie with Jace, and Jace doesn't trust her anymore, so that's kind of rough. But I think what she's trying to do is get this final two with Jace in, and then with Kevin pitching this final three with Jace, she's thinking, I'm going to set myself up to be in a spot where Jace takes me, Kevin takes me. The problem there again, though, is that Jace doesn't trust her right now, and that does she win in either of those scenarios? That's sort of a risky play here. As of right now, Herman respects Kevin's game and Jace's game more than Helena's. A lot of people are in a somewhat similar place, but I do think that there's definitely a path for her to win some respect. Especially like, again, if she's sitting next to Kevin, even though Kevin has been very effective in the game so far, he still is Kevin. Like that is just a natural disadvantage for Kevin is that he's Kevin. You know what I mean? And like he doesn't have the sort of like plucky underdog like ability that Helena might have with the rest of the house. Like he does sometimes. But at other times, I'm turning to Marty. At other times, he doesn't. So I don't think she's out of it by any means. But winning competitions is definitely the biggest thing that will help. Would Josh cut Kevin? I don't think so. I don't think he would. Not at this time, at least. I think that he will do his best to ride with Kevin as far as possible. I mean, if Josh is picking between the Showmans and Kevin, I don't think it's even close to a choice. And I mean, he loves Kevin. He really loves Kevin. I don't think he will cut him unless it's like deep in the game, and even then, I'm not sure it would happen. Would Josh beat Kevin in a final two? Yes, I think he would. I think Josh probably beats anyone in a final two with Herman gone. Yeah, I don't think anybody beats Josh in a final two at this point. Which is why, another question, would Kevin cut Josh? This early on, I don't think he'll cut Josh yet. I think he still needs Josh right now. But I would be looking at like a couple weeks down the line. If things are going well for Kevin, he might start looking at cutting Josh. So, all right. Okay. Let's wrap this up. Thank you all so much for joining me here this morning. Again, I'll be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong later today, probably around 3 p.m. Eastern, to talk through the stock watch picks, all the things that could happen next week. Should be an interesting one. And then stay off of social media from around 4 p.m. Eastern if you want to avoid spoilers for tonight. That might include, spoilers for a non-double eviction don't matter quite as much. We already know who's probably going home. The only thing would be that we might be spoiled on the HOH winner. If the HOH takes place in the episode, if you don't want to be spoiled on that, then you might want to stay away from social media. But we might not even get an HOH winner in the episode, in which case it doesn't really matter if we're spoiled for the HOH. So not nearly as big of a deal when it's not a double eviction, but still the warning is there if you don't want to be spoiled. And then, of course, I'll be live on Twitch watching the episode with all of you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then after the episode, I will be live here on Rob as a Podcast, recapping everything that goes down tonight on the eviction, and hopefully previewing what we may see next week with a new HOH. So thank you all so much for joining me here today. And I will see all of you